Hello everyone. Welcome to Enreason, the daily current affair analysis program from Team Enlight. Today we'll be discussing five topics. The first one is police reforms. So this is important for you in your mains perspective. So we'll be discussing the major issues with respect to police force in India as well as certain measures and way forward. Okay. The second topic is GST compensation. So this topic will be discussed in a prelims point of view, the important concept related to GST compensation, as well as some current issues that can be linked to your mains preparation. The third topic is consumer price index of agricultural labor and rural labor indices. So we'll be discussing the concept of this with respect to a prelims point of view. And the fourth topic is Kaveri River. So we'll be discussing some of the key facts regarding Kaveri River, some major projects, and how it can be related to your mains preparation. Okay. And the final topic is Draft Trafficking in Persons Bill 2021. So this was yesterday's topic, but however, there was certain technical difficulties, and because of which it was not able to be heard. So we'll be discussing that topic too today. So we'll be discussing the various provisions, issues, and way forward with respect to Trafficking in Persons Bill, as well as the measures taken by the government. Okay, so we'll move on to our first topic, that is police reforms. So recently or today, there was an article in the Hindu regarding the need for police reforms or why it was necessary to have a humane police force. Okay, so that is why we are discussing police force. So this can be related to your GS2 syllabus, especially in your governance part. Okay, so understand that police comes under the state list. So each states have their own separate police force, as well as center is also having certain center reserve police force. Okay. Now, what are the issues with respect to police force, or why is it necessary to have police reforms? So, first, one important aspect is the custodial deaths and police excesses. So, we know that there was an issue regarding custodial death in Tamil Nadu recently of a father son duo. So, that is one of the issues why police reform is necessary. Next important aspect is the overburdened police force. So, if you are looking at the number of vacancies in police force, it is said that in 2016 there was about 24% vacancies in police force. Okay, and if you are taking another interesting statistic, that is, there is a UN statistic which says that there should be at least 222 police officers per lakh population. Okay, so that is a standard that United Nations prescribe, whereas in case of India it is 137 per lakh population. So you know how much overburdened the current police force is. Okay, how much lack of human resource there is. Okay, the third point is regarding the ill treatment of lower ranks in police force. Okay, so this includes verbal abuse by the superior forces, which essentially reduces the morale of the forces. Okay, so this can lead to inefficiency in functioning. Okay. Another important thing is the archaic laws that govern the police force. So the Police Act of 1861 was actually enacted by British government right after the 1857 revolt. So you know how long back this act was enacted, and how and the intent of British was to prevent any kind of rioting from forces. Okay, so this law is still governing the police forces. So that is an archaic law which needs to be reformed. Okay, another important aspects are regarding the infrastructural deficits with respect to police forces. So it is said that in 2015-16, out of the total fund available for modernization of police forces, it is said that only 14 percentage of the fund was utilized. Okay, so there is deficits, especially when there is issues such as cyber crimes, etc., are increasing. So there is a very serious infrastructural deficit in police force. Okay, so these are some of the issues. You can add on other issues you come across while reading other news articles. Okay. Now, what are the certain measures that the government have taken? So, one important aspect is regarding the Model Police Act of 2005. So, the government formed a panel to draft a Model Police Act, which all the states can consider as a model and amend their acts accordingly. So, the Model Police Act was enacted in 2005, and about more than 17 plus states have enacted or amended their existing police acts based on this Model Police Act. Okay, then the government have instituted various committees like the Padmanabhaya Committee. There is a second ARC committee, or there is for criminal justice system. We know the Malimat Committee. So all these committees have and commissions have been recommending various reform mechanism. So government have been looking forward to develop policy based on this. Okay, another important aspect is Supreme Court's directives from the Prakash Singh case. So there are measures, or there are certain directives which some of which are now being practiced in many states. However, there are certain measures which are not yet been in force. Okay, now what is the way forward with respect to police reforms? So one thing you can say is regarding the Supreme Court directions on the Prakash Singh case can be implemented in letter and spirit. Okay, so some of the major provisions in that is regarding instituting a police complaint authority to look into the misconduct or excesses of police officials. Okay, so there needs to be a police complaint authority, as well as to prevent interference or the political interference. There needs to be security of tenure to police chiefs. Okay, so that was also provided in the Supreme Court directives. You can add on to this points by looking into the Supreme Court directives of Prakash Singh case. Okay, another important aspect is that you can implementation or enacting anti-torture legislations. As of now, India does not have any anti-torture legislation. So bringing in anti-torture legislation can reduce chances of custodial death and police excesses. Okay, another important aspect you can look into is the second ARC reports, Padmanabhaya Committee report, Malimat Committee report on criminal justice system. All of these contain certain recommendations which can be used as recommendations for reforming police forces. Okay, another important aspect that you can look into is giving ethical training to police forces, so that there is a better or harmonious relation between police as well as the public. Then you can say that there needs to be improvement in infrastructure, especially like cyber security infrastructure, as well as infrastructure with respect to forensics, etc., can be improved, as well as improving the human resources, filling the vacancies in police forces as soon as possible. So these are some of the way forward with respect to police reforms. You have to add your own points while reading articles related to this. Okay, so we'll move on to our next topic. So the next topic is GST compensation scheme. So this was in news because there is a pending of 81,000 crore GST compensation that needs to be paid by the center to the states. Okay, so what is GST compensation? So the key fact is that GST compensation is actually provision to the states to compensate for loss of revenue that has arisen out of implementation of GST. So we know that a number of state taxes have been subsumed under GST, and there were fears among states that this can result in revenue loss. Okay, so in order to compensate this revenue loss, the center had agreed that they will pay certain compensation to the states. Okay, so the GST compensation scheme was introduced through the GST Compensation to States Act of 2017. Okay, and this compensation comes from the GST Compensation Fund, and this compensation fund is pooled through compensation cess, which is applied or levied on the demerit goods. So there is this concept of demerit goods in economy, which is actually certain products which are unhealthy, or which do have some negative connotation to the public. Okay, like tobacco or junk foods, etc. So you can just look into and see what are the demerit goods with respect to GST. Okay, So how this GST compensation is computed? So regarding the computation of GST compensation, Section 7 of GST Compensation Act provides for the computation of GST compensation. So, according to it, there is a revenue projection every year based on 14% compounded growth from the base year's revenue. So, the base year here is 2015-16. Okay, so based on this, based on the average growth of 14%, every year a revenue is projected, and if the revenue projection or the difference between the actual revenue and the revenue projected is considered as the GST compensation. Okay, and the GST compensation is paid bi-monthly. And why there is a current issue with respect to GST compensation is that because of the pandemic, the center government was not able to get as much fund through compensation cess as it should have, and hence the government there is pending compensation dues to the states to be paid. So what the government is now doing is that the center is actually borrowing money through a special window, and the money borrowed is given to the states. Okay, and this principal and interest of this will be paid through the compensation fund itself. Okay, and remember that this is not included, this borrowing is not included under the fiscal deficit target of the government. Okay, this does not come under the fiscal deficit of the government. Okay, and again the concept of GST council etc are already been discussed in recent, so you can go to the link given in the description box regarding the GST concept of GST as well as GST council. Okay, and in a mains perspective, what you can expect is how the spending dues to state can impact the fiscal federalism of states. Okay, since federalism, the and challenges to federalism is a part of your GS2 syllabus, so the issues with respect to or impact on fiscal federalism can be asked in GS2. And again, also remember that implementation of GST was already asked in GS3 in previous years. So GST is a very important topic. So always be ready with the mains perspective of this. Okay, so we'll move on to our next topic. So this is a concept oriented topic. So it is said that the government is planning to bring about or revamp the consumer price index of agricultural labor and rural labor. Okay, that is why it was in news. So what is consumer price index? So it is actually a measure to estimate price changes in a basket of goods and services, which is representative of consumption expenditure. So in terms of agricultural labor and rural labor, this basket of expenditure will be based on the consumption pattern of the rural agricultural and rural labors. Okay, and this is compiled and released by the Labor Bureau under Ministry of Labor. Okay, now what are the uses of this CPI or Consumer Price Index for agricultural labor and rural labor? This is used to revise the minimum wages for agricultural and rural labors by states. Okay, and it is also used to fix the wages for MG Naregas as well as ASHA workers. So that is the reason why it is said that revising this CPI index can actually increase the wage for Narega as well as ASHA workers. So during this pandemic scenario, this will be a breather for them. Okay, now uh, regarding the revamped index or the government's plan to revamp the index. Okay, so what is the changes that is being brought about? So one important change is that there is a change in base year from the current base year, that is 1986-87 to 2019. Okay, now it is also proposed that the consumption basket will also be widened to increase the weightage given to health and education, and this is according to the current consumption pattern. Okay, so that is also all about CPI, agricultural labor and rural labor, and also keep in mind that this will be in force from September 2021. So while discussing your current affair or while looking into current affair on September, also add this point. Okay, so the next topic, that is Kaveri River. So Kaveri River was in news because of a certain dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu regarding Kaveri, certain projects in Kaveri River. Okay, and one project is the Kaveri Vaigai Gundar River Interlinking Project. Okay, another one is the Mekedatu project. So Karnataka is opposing the Tamil Nadu's river linking project, and Tamil Nadu is actually opposing the Mekedatu project of Karnataka. Okay, so we'll now look into some of the key facts of Kaveri River. So first thing is that it is an east flowing river, so it drains to the Bay of Bengal, and it is a peninsular river, and both southwest and northeast monsoon provide water flow into this Kaveri river, so it has lesser fluctuations in river water flow compared to other rivers. Okay, now it originates at Talakaveri, which is in Brahmagiri ranges of Western Ghats, and it is in Kodagu district of Karnataka. Okay, now the states through which it passes, they are Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and the Union Territory of Puducherry. Okay, now which are the major tributaries of Kaveri? So if you are looking into the map, you know that there is Harangi, Hemavati, Arkavati, and Shimsa. Okay, which are the left bank tributaries of Kaveri. Now, the right bank tributaries are Lakshman Tirtha, Kabani, Bhavani, Noyil, and Amaravati. So, if you are looking into the map, you can see that there is Lakshman Tirtha, Kabani, Suvarnavati, Bhavani, Noyil, and Amaravati. Okay. Now, along with that, you can also look into what are the major national parks or wildlife sanctuaries through which Kaveri River flows through, and also you can look into the major waterfalls in Kaveri River. Okay. Now, what are the major projects that are happening in the Kaveri River basin? Okay. One is the Krishna Raja Sagar Dam. Okay. So this is in Karnataka. Okay. Another important project is the Mettur Dam. This is in Salem district of Tamil Nadu. Another important thing is the Grand Anicut. So this is of importance because is of historical significance as well, because it was built about like 2000 years ago by the Chola dynasty, and it is still in use. Okay. Another important thing is a Nugu reservoir. So this is also in Karnataka. Okay. So another important aspect is regarding the ongoing or disputed project, that is the Mekedatu project. So Mekedatu is actually a deep gorge uh, at the confluence of Kaveri and its tributary Arkavati. Okay, so the Karnataka government is actually planning to build a multi-purpose river project in Mekedatu Dam, and it is proposed that it will provide water to Bangalore city. Okay. So it will be to meet the needs of water needs of Bangalore city, whereas Tamil Nadu is actually opposed to this project since it fears that it can affect the water flow to Tamil Nadu, and this project is actually pending the National Green Tribunal approval. Okay. Now, in the mains perspective, what all can be asked? So, one obvious thing is the regarding the river water disputes. Okay. So, what are the constitutional provisions regard to river water disputes? We have Article 262. Okay. Then there can be questions based on the Interstate River Water Disputes Bill that was introduced and how it can change the current situation of river water disputes. Okay, and its impact on federalism. Okay, so what can be the impact of federalism caused by these river water disputes, etc. Okay, so this could be the main things that you can keep in mind with respect to your mains preparation. Okay, so that is all about today's news. Now we'll discuss again about the draft anti-trafficking in persons bill of 2021, which was in news yesterday. So the editorial of Hindu had given an analysis of draft trafficking in persons bill. So it included number of provisions with respect to trafficking in persons bill, as well as certain issues that are considered as concerns of this bill. Okay, so let's go through the provisions of the bill first. So first important provision is that it extends to all citizens inside as well as outside of India. Okay, and it extends beyond the protection given to women and children as victims, and it has included transgenders as well as any person who may be victims of trafficking. Okay, another important provision is that it does away with the provision that the victim has to be transported from one place to another to be defined as victim. Okay, another important thing is that it defines the term exploitation. Okay, and also it provides that offenders, in the ambit of offenders, it now can include defense personnel, government servants, doctors, paramedical staff, or anyone who is in a position of authority. Okay, also it provides that any property that is brought via the income from trafficking can now be forfeited, and the investigating agency is provided as National Investigating Agency or the NIA. Okay, and it also provides that there needs to be national, state, and district level anti human trafficking committees. Okay, now what are the issues with respect to this bill? One is that with respect to NIA being the coordinating agency, okay, it is said that it can overburden the already burdened NIA. And another important aspect is its impact on federalism. Since NIA is a central agency, it is showing a centralizing tendency with respect to dealing with trafficking in persons. Okay, another important aspect is regarding the victimization of exploited. Okay, so it does not consider consensual sexual activities for commerce, and hence it can actually result in victimization of sexual workers, okay, by forfeiting their property, etc. And it has provided for death penalty, and it is also being flagged for this mention of death penalty as a criticism. Okay, now let's look into what are the different measures taken by the government, or what are the measures existing with respect to trafficking in persons. So constitution itself through fundamental rights provides that there is protection against trafficking through article 23 and 24. Again, there are certain legal mechanisms such as the Bonded Labor System Abolition Act of 1976, Child Labor Prohibition and Abolition Act of 1986, the Juvenile Justice Act, Immoral Traffic Prevention Act of 1956, as well as Section 366 and 372 of Indian Penal Code. Okay, there is also anti-human trafficking units, and there are international conventions of which India is a signatory, like the United Nations Convention on Transnational Organized Crime and the SAR Convention on Prevention and Combating Trafficking. Now, what can be the way forward? So here, one important aspect is that capacity building of police along with that of NGOs. There are a number of NGOs that work to prevent trafficking in persons. So capacity building can be an important solution. Also, the Justice Verma Committee have proposed to bring about a census of missing children, which can also help in seeking or helping tracing persons who are being trafficked. Again, preventive steps through awareness of schools, society, etc., can be undertaken, and also coordination between different states can also be a step through which this trafficking in persons can be prevented. Okay, so this is all about news analysis today. I hope it was a helpful session. Once again, thank you for watching.